is Football Night in America, served by Applebee's.
Maria Taylor alongside Mike Florio, Devin McCourty, and Jason Garrett, and we're here to just recap a little bit of what we saw during Week 3. And the first thing we saw, because you can't unsee a historic offense, Miami dropping 70 against Denver at home in South Florida. What impressed you most? How did they do it? Devin, your takeaway.
It was kind of like practice. The Denver defense looked like a scout team defense out there. It felt like everything Miami ran, it worked, and it worked. High-level execution. Usually when you draw up plays, I think as an offensive coordinator, you're saying, this might get us 8 yards. This was all home runs. Run play, 60-yard touchdown. Pass play, Tyreek Hill, 50-something-yard touchdown. So it's just Miami's clicking on all cylinders. We knew that. But I think for Denver to come in and not to put up a fight makes you wonder, are they questioning what they're doing as a team? And that defense just didn't show up today.
Deb, this is pro football. It's pro football.
Not
the
basketball?
Chiefs won 41-10, yep. Right? They would have had to score 29 more points to match what
to
the
just
Dolphins
be impressive,
did.
yes.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. You think about 10 touchdowns in one game. It's hard to imagine, and I do think it's a combination. They are balanced. I like what they're doing. They're running the football. They obviously have so much speed outside. I love the aggressiveness. This could have been a lot worse. They started tapping the brakes in about the early part of the third quarter, and they could have kicked the field goal at the end of the game, too. So it's a combination of where they are and where Denver is. Really disappointing day for Denver. I think the biggest thing that stands out is they didn't fight, they didn't compete, and they're going to have to address that going forward.
I talked to running back Raheem Mostert, who had 4 of the touchdowns himself on Sunday, and he gave a lot of credit to the offensive line. And we always forget about the offensive line when the offense is going well. Because the quarterback, the running backs, the receivers, they get the touchdowns, they get the glory. But he said year 2 of the Mike McDaniel system, the offensive line is improving. Tua Tagovailoa is improving. It's all year 2, and this is the jump that they're making under Mike McDaniel, and we're seeing it. And it's incredible what they were able to do. They may want to save some of those points for future games.
Listen.
But who knows? Maybe they'll score 40 or 50 once or twice again this season.
Well, it didn't actually matter who was in. Mike White comes in. He's throwing touchdowns. Devon Achane. We were like, oh, the rookie. He's just showing up. He has 4 touchdowns in the game.
The chosen one got in, had a deep ball.
Had a touchdown. Did we learn more about Miami's offense or the Broncos' defense in this game?
I think we learned more about the Broncos' defense. We knew Miami had a good offense. We knew they can score points. We've seen that through the early part of the season. But for Denver to go out there and perform like that after we heard Sean Payton talk about Russell Wilson not understanding really the plays and kind of simplifying it, but then overall as a team to come out and perform like that, to me that showed that I don't know if they really believe in the direction they're going right now this season.
Some real concerns there, but I love how Miami's running the football. Mike McDaniel went to Miami with a reputation of being a run guy. He was the run game coordinator out there in San Francisco, and they've gotten into this high-flying pass offense, which has been fantastic. But when they get down the stretch, they go play some cold weather games in the division, all that kind of stuff. As this season goes on, having that running game is going to be critical. They're developing a more balanced team that can beat you a lot of different ways.
One of the keys with a new coaching staff, and you guys can obviously speak to this better than me, but it's getting that buy-in. Yep. And you need that win to get the buy-in. And if the win doesn't come, it could go the other way like it did today. And if they just would have won one of those first 2 games that were close and they could have had it, maybe they give it a little more effort today. Maybe it turns out better today. But I think Sean Payton is still searching to get the players to fully buy in.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Jets and the Patriots because, Jets fans, again, it was raining on them. Some of them were spitting their teeth out during the game. Everything was wild going on. The Patriots walk away with the win 15-10. And, is it just a free fall for the Jets? Or will there be an opportunity, Mike? And maybe you can give us a little more insight here on what do they do at quarterback? Like, what do you do offensively to find any way or any option and opportunity to win games down this stretch?
Basically, they believe that if their defense doesn't play a perfect game, they're screwed each and every week. While they pivot from what was going to be 6 weeks or so to get Aaron Rodgers up to speed in an offense they designed for him, now they're back to Zach Wilson, who was supposed to sit for a year or 2, and they're trying to get him going. They have no other viable options. That's the problem. There's no free agent out there that they're going to sign and say, okay, you're the starter now. Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz, that's not happening. They're not going to trade for a starter, and they're not going to trade for a backup because the teams that have the backups need the backups. And if they have an extra backup, they're going to put their thumb on the scale. They're going to put they're going to put all fingers and a couple of elbows on the scale if the Jets come to them and say, trade us your QB3. So they're just going to try to make it work, and they're going to hope the defense can save the day.
Think about what they do have, though. They have a good runner in Breece Hall. They have an outstanding young receiver in Garrett Wilson. The offensive line is not great. It's not dominant. But they can be better than they're playing. What I love about New England is in a game like this, we could have bet the house on New England, right? Because they know how to win this game. They know how to say, okay, we're going to play to our defense. We're not going to screw it up on offense. They're not going to be able to drive the ball. They just know how to play complementary football and win a game like this. Credit to them. They needed to be 1-2. 0-3 for the Patriots at this point would have been bad. But it's a lot of football ahead. Zach Wilson was the second player taken in the draft. He has talent. They just got to continue to try to find the things that he can do well and use the weapons he has around him.
Do you think it matters, Coach, when Aaron Rodgers comes back? He plans to come back when he can walk and work directly with Zach Wilson. Do you think that'll help at this point?
I do think it'll help because I think Aaron Rodgers has had a real generous spirit since he's been with the Jets. I think it's well documented that he's been a mentor to the young quarterbacks. He's been a real leader on that team, and I think he wants to be a part of something. So once he gets himself going again physically, having his presence, I think will certainly instill some confidence in Zach Wilson.
Yeah, and I think from a bigger picture standpoint, as we look week 3, this game felt like who's going to finish last in the AFC East. If you look, as you look at both these teams, then you look at Miami Dolphins, look at the Buffalo Bills today. They looked really good. They went out there, dominated their opponent. But then you look at this game and you're saying, all right, this is not really a great game to watch. You know, no one's really doing anything offensively. It's a battle of these defenses. So I think, you know, for both of these teams, no matter how you get it going, can you compete with Buffalo? Can you compete with Miami? That's the bigger question. And I think both these teams will have to go back and say, all right, for New England, we won this game, but we still want to do things better. We want to be able to play a team like the Jets and score 3 or 4 touchdowns. And I think for the Jets, it's, okay, we know we have to play perfect on defense, but how do we get the takeaways? How do we get the ball back in the offense's hands, not on schedule, but how do we steal 2 or 3 extra possessions?
All right, well, we do have the Jets on Sunday Night Football for Week 4. They'll be hosting the Chiefs, so we'll see if they can get well or the defense can play perfect.
They won't do that in that game.
They can play absolutely perfect in Week 4. Let's talk about the Chiefs, though. We saw Patrick Mahomes, you know, his ankle got rolled up on in their matchup against the Bears, but they still were able to completely dominate at home. And since we saw them on Thursday night, it's been a completely different team.
Yeah, I mean, it's very tempting to say that everything's going to be fine because Taylor Swift was there. I mean, and that's the easy out. But I think as we look at this team, we were there opening night, and defensively, it just felt like they couldn't get in rhythm. They couldn't get the stops they wanted, and all of the talk was Chris Jones sitting in the stands. Chris Jones comes back, and his defense has looked excellent. And obviously, it's his play. He's a great pass rusher, inside, outside, can play the run. But I think it's the confidence. When your best players are out there and they're making best player type of plays, everybody else plays better. The secondary is more aggressive. They understand what they're doing. Linebackers are coming downhill. It's just that good feeling of like, we can make plays. Our guy is in there, he's back, and that's how this defense has been playing.
Yeah, when you have alpha players, they take so much pressure off everybody else. Okay, when they're out, the number 2 guy all of a sudden has to be the number 1 guy. And maybe he's not quite ready for that. And now the big guy comes back in. Everybody settles back into their roles. It applied to Chris Jones on defense. It applies to number 87, the Swiftie himself, on offense, right? When he comes back, all of a sudden those complementary receivers, they're getting the lesser cover guys. They don't feel the pressure. They start playing better as well. So, you know, they're a really good team, and they're playing really good defense. They're fun to watch.
Mahomes gave us that scare, too, when he got rolled up on, and he kind of walked around a little bit like he was trying to walk it off. Eventually, he was fine. He left the game, but not because of the injury. It was just time to call the dogs off. It was 41-0. I just worry that it's one of those, how's he going to feel tomorrow morning when he rolls out of bed? For now, the adrenaline carries you through it, but I mean, I hope it's not Blaine Gabbert versus Zach Wilson on Sunday Night Football on NBC. But I just kind of hold my breath a little bit and make sure he's okay tomorrow.
And by the way, all of the Swifties, you know, Patrick Mahomes said, he's like, I knew Taylor was going to be here, so I had to get the ball to Travis. So he got his touchdown, and it looked great for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. But let's talk about the Bears. That's their 13th straight loss. Just a lot of talk leading up to this game, too. Remember Justin Fields answering the question about maybe why he's overthinking things, and he mentioned coaching and then called another press conference and kind of took everything back. And I don't know, just how do we feel about how things are going?
It was such a bad week for the Bears. And I felt bad for Justin Fields because I really do think his comments got taken out of context. And everybody likes to say that, oh, you were You took me out of context when it really didn't. This is one time that it did happen, and I felt bad for him, but it was just part of this avalanche, and it's getting worse for the Bears. And this was the worst week for them to face the Chiefs. And they just need to find a way. You know, like any winless team, you just got to find a way to go get a win some way, somehow. And they have the Broncos this week, so they got a chance to go get a win and just start turning the page towards something positive.
In 2023, Dev, it's hard to build a team because everybody gets so reactionary about how you're doing. The Bears have not been good for a long time. It's going to take time to get the right kind of players in there so they can turn this thing around in all parts of their team. They're just not a very talented team. You need cornerstone players in the NFL. You need these key guys that everybody plays off of. They don't have a lot of them, particularly when you have a young quarterback like Justin Fields. So for them to go to Kansas City, I think we all knew that was going to be a hard game for them. But hopefully they can kind of stay focused, keep building the team they want to build it, make some progress over the course of this year. This was going to be a 3 to 4 year rebuilding process for them. Hopefully Matt Eberflus is given enough time to do that.
Jason, I agree with you, and I think that's one of the biggest issues when you look at the NFL. You don't have a lot of time to even build the team or the culture, and they had a guy like Roquan Smith. They traded him away. He's in Baltimore, and he is one of those foundational pieces in Baltimore. But look at this team on defense. Yeah, you go and get some guys in free agency. That's great. You get Edmonds there, but that's not really how you build a team that's going to last and play good, consistent football week in and week out. And I think that's what they're going through. And, you know, we're going to put a lot of hype, or Chicago fans are going to put a lot of hype in this game against Denver because you get another team that doesn't look very good. But then if you don't win this game, you know, I think everything's going to go away. Everyone's going to talk about we need to make changes, we need this, we need to do that. But stay patient, stay the course, and see what happens.
The race to the bottom. You
The
kind of
race
said
to
it
the
with the
bottom, yes.
Patriots and the Jets, the race to the bottom. That's going to be Devin's thing. Let's talk about an upset that we saw. And I just remember keep looking up, and I was like, Cris Sims, what's going on in this game? Like, what's happening? Dallas and Arizona, and some of the things that we pointed out during the show, 1-5 in the red zone, gave up 222 rushing yards to the Cardinals. I mean, when you look back at the stat sheet or the box score, your takeaway was what? Like, what did this game come down to, Jason?
The takeaway for me was Dallas was incredible the first 2 weeks of this season. They won 40-0. They won 30-10 in the NFL, outscoring opponents 70-10 through the first couple weeks. And then they go to Arizona and they're banged up. 3 guys on the offensive line not playing. They have the loss of Diggs in practice this week. So some key guys, foundational players, those cornerstone players we're talking about, out of the lineup. But they still should go beat Arizona. Arizona's not there yet. And I do think it came down to some situational stuff. When they got down in the red zone, they couldn't convert. And I like what Arizona did. It was the game where Micah Parsons was least dominant, least disruptive. And a couple things were a case. They kept doing some quarterback zone read type stuff, not blocking them, making them make some decisions, not letting them come off the ball and just play decisively and disrupt what the offense is doing. So I like what their plan was. And I do think Dallas is a little slower on defense when they play on grass. When they're at home on that fast track, it's like they got 14 guys on defense, right? They slow down a little bit. They weren't as disruptive. Give Arizona credit. That's a big win.
It's funny you say that. We played the Dallas Cowboys in 2019. We're playing them at home in New England. And we talked about that. Watching film, Coach Belichick was showing film from Dallas at home. And it's a shot. It's a running back. It's Pollard breaking a long run. He's like, these guys look great. He said, it's great we're not playing them at home because when you get to play them on the road and you get the elements, for us it was a cold game in New England with rain. In Arizona, it was grass. You get them on those different elements, you don't really see the same exact team. And I think now, when you're playing the Cowboys, you might say, hey, look, I know they look great the first 2 weeks, but let me tell you about the first 2 weeks. The Giants haven't looked great throughout the early part of the season. And then we're watching this Jets team after they lost Aaron Rodgers. They don't look great. Then they lose to the Arizona Cardinals. So I would be telling my team in the locker room, let's slow down. We got a good chance against this team. Let's just go out there and compete and see where that leaves us.
I appreciate you bringing that up because I was coaching that team. That went to win that. And I still got frostbite.
2 quick observations. One, with the Cowboys, I think if you can withstand and survive the early storm and not find yourself down 14, 16, 17, you got a chance because once that goes, you're done against them. And the other thing, too, it's any given Sunday or Monday or Thursday, whenever they play the games now. But this is proof that if you don't take a team seriously, and there's a chance the Cowboys really didn't take the Cardinals seriously with Josh Dobbs at quarterback. He'd never had a win. He doesn't have much experience. These are the Cardinals. They're tanking for Caleb Williams. Everybody thinks that. You end up stepping on a rake and you lose. And that is something that other teams, good teams can use this year to say, look, you better be ready for this game because any of these teams can beat you.
Okay, I've got some support for you guys with the grass versus turf. Last year, Dallas was 11-1 on the turf, 1-4 on grass. So the hypothesis might be right. That's not me. That's JK, our researcher. I have nothing to do with that. But he got it really fast for us. The last game that we want to talk about, Chargers and Minnesota, two teams that were 0-2. So it was the battle to not start 0-3, basically. And it came down to a coaching decision. So let's go to the coach first and what you thought on the fourth down call by Brandon Staley.
You know, Brandon Staley knows his team better than anybody. But I don't think in this particular instance he made a good decision for his team. They have the ball at the end of the game, and they're on the minus 24-yard line, and they go for it on 4th and 1. They had rushed for 30 yards in the game. Herbert was incredible. He threw for over 400 yards, but they hadn't run the ball very well at all in this game. And for him to go for it there, with putting his team in jeopardy of, okay, you're up by 4, and now you're giving Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson an opportunity to go score the game-winning touchdown late in the game. To me, punt it, play defense, make him go earn it. Now, his defense bailed him out. His quarterback bailed him out. I get all that, but I still don't think it was the right decision for the Chargers.
One thing I'll give Staley credit is like what you just said, knowing your team. And I know for me as a defensive player, I would have hated that, to be in the game, the ball's on a minus 24, and I would feel like my head coach is telling me, I don't trust you guys on defense. He might have had a good reason. They didn't get many stops all day. But to go out there now, we don't pick up the first down, and we got to take the field, and there's still about 2 minutes left in this game, and Minnesota is in position to go win the game. I mean, great field position. Everything's against you. And for this defense to just go out there and say, you know what, coach did this. We got to back them up. We got to go get a turnover. We got to go stop them on downs. We got to go win the game. I think it was great confidence for this defense going forward, but definitely a risky move by Staley going for it on 4th and 2.
We know he did it last year against the Browns. It blew up. Keenan Allen called out the decision on social media before he deleted it, and Keenan Allen told me today he supported it today. He just preferred, as did he believe the other guys in the huddle, quarterback sneak. And it really is odd, and this repeats what we said during Football Night in America, that they don't have the quarterback push play in their arsenal because Justin Herbert is big enough that you could put 2 or 3 guys behind him and just shove him past the line to gain. And Keenan Allen, I think, is going to be suggesting that. But after that, when Minnesota had the ball back, whatever happened at the end where they didn't kill the clock and it just felt like there wasn't any sense of what they were going to do, that last play ended up feeling rushed. It gets tipped, it gets picked off, and game over.
And the Vikings, really, remember last year, all year, we were like, oh, child, we were holding on by the seat of our pants, but they are 11-0, those one-score games. Mike Florio was feeling great, and here we are.
No, I wasn't.
You
I
were?
wasn't. No.
I don't think he's ever feeling great.
You're right.
He's wounded. He's very wounded.
I won't feel great until they're hoisting a Lombardi trophy, which I will be floating, hopefully floating, not burning when it happens.
In heaven somewhere. Okay, gotcha. So the Vikings start 0-3. We'll keep an eye on Florio. He did have on his purple sweatshirt today, and it didn't work out.
He sure did.
Yeah.
It's time for Matthew Berry's DraftKings crowning moments. Matthew, who do you have this evening?
Hey, Maria. All right, so these are the DraftKings crowning moments, and in my hand here I have actual bets from actual bettors. I feel kind of David Letterman-ish, but these are actual bets placed on DraftKings Sportsbook, including $10. Somebody put down $10 on Devon Achane to score not 1, not 2, 3 touchdowns. Someone put $10 down on Devon Achane to score 3 touchdowns. He came away, or she came away, with $2,500. There was another $2 bet on the correct score in the Jets and Patriots game, 10-15 at plus 8,000. That won $160. And then another bettor put $110 on the Colts at Ravens game to go into overtime. Odds there were plus 1,500. That ended up winning at $1,650 on just, again, an original $110 bet. DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL, and new customers can get $5. They just have to bet $5, and they get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Just download the app and use promo code SNF when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. When we come back, Jack, Rodney, and Tony are live and semi-direct from the field in Las Vegas. We're back after this.
All right, it's time for our speed round, and this time we are going to do a panic meter 1 to 10. I will allow you to explain your level of panic, okay? Yeah, you still can't use the word great. Okay, let's start with Sean Payton.
I'm going 2 because he's got a 5-year contract. It's fully guaranteed. If they stink this year, they get a high draft pick.
Florio.
Russell Wilson's gone. Sean Payton gets to start over again next year. This is scholarship year for him, so he's at a 2.
Nothing like a scholarship year. That's awesome. I'm going to go middle of the road. Not popular, but I'm going to go 5. Because you lose the team. Yes, you're not going to lose your job, but if you lose the team, you come back next year and you're like, hey, we're going to start all over again. No, like, that's not good. So I think keeping these veterans bought in and influence these young guys is going to be big for Sean Payton throughout this season.
Couldn't agree more. I think it's 4 for me. The expectations were probably high because of Sean's reputation. Maybe he can rekindle the Russell Wilson magic. But now they get lower. And I do think it was going to be a rebuild for them. He does have the 5-year contract. They just got to be patient. But you have to see strides. You have to see the team going this way by the end of the year. And there's still a lot of football to be played.
The Minnesota Vikings as an objective.
Take that, Florio. Take that.
Well, I'll go 6.5. Okay. And I want to go higher. But think of what happened last year. They were winning close games, and they believed they would keep winning close games. It became something that carried them. Flip side is if you keep losing close games, you start thinking the exact opposite. Something's going to happen. Here it comes. Where's the fumble? Where's the interception? Where's the bad break? Because last year, it just kept going, and this year, I'm afraid it's going to keep going. This Panthers game this weekend for them is huge. They lose that, they get the Chiefs the next week, and it may go very badly for the Vikings.
I'm going high on this. I'm going 8. You're now 0-3, and it's the way you've lost games, not taking care of the ball, but then doing it time after time after time. Like, Thursday night against the Eagles, you had 3 fumbles in the first half, and then you come out in the second half, very first drive, strip sack, you give the ball away again. So I just don't think they're taking care of the ball. They're not doing the fundamental things. That, to me, leads to more and more losing.
For me, it's 7. It has a lot to do with Minnesota. I think Minnesota is going to turn it around. I think there's too much good stuff there. Again, a lot of football to be played. But the fact that Detroit is kind of being who they are, 2-1, and they look good. The defense is playing better. Green Bay, they got the big win against the Saints coming back. Love's getting a little bit more confidence as he goes. So those teams there were some question marks about are starting to show up saying, hey, we're going to be there. So they got to hurry up quickly. Starting 0-3, it becomes a big hill to climb. But I like the quarterback. I like the weapons around him. There's a lot of ball to be played. Don't bet against these guys quite yet.
Okay, what about the Cowboys' red zone offense?
I'll go low on that. I'll go 3. They'll be fine. They'll be fine. Today was just a glitch.
I agree. I mean, it hasn't been great in the beginning part of the season, but I'm going to go 2 because I think this is something, it's week by week. You got to have some good plays, playing against different defenses. They can get the red zone offense turned around.
I'm going to split the difference. I'm going to go 2.5 for all the same reasons. Getting the linemen back will make a difference. Running the ball down there creates single high coverage and matchups outside. So today they saw a lot of shell coverage where guys were getting doubled, not as much one-on-one. They got to run the ball down there. Having those linemen back, Zach Martin in the lineup makes a difference.
What about the Jaguars? The Texans come roll into town, and they get their first win against them for D'Amico Ryans and C.J. Stroud. What's the panic meter for the Jaguars?
I'll go low because of the division they're in. I mean, really, they've already beaten the Colts. The Colts are the only 2-1 team. Everybody else is 1-2. And, Coach, you were saying it early. They were slow starters last year, too. They'll settle into a rhythm, and they'll be fine. Today was a shocker, but they always struggle with the Texans. When the Texans are bad, when the Texans are good, they always struggle with them.
I'll go 3 on this one. You don't want to panic, but I think it's also the realization we were talking in the viewing room. Why did we anoint the Jaguars as this team? They have yet to show that. So I think just being realistic, who knows if they win this division? This division isn't theirs. It's still up for grabs. Even though they look like the best team, they really haven't played that way this season. Yeah,
for me, it's about a 4. And if you follow Jacksonville, you'd like to see the arc of the quarterback continue to go that way. And to me, it has. but sometimes it kind of dips down. And him being consistent as the leader of that team, as they continue to build around him, will be big. I love the coach. I think Doug does a fantastic job. And again, a lot of football to be played in a not-so-good division. So I think they'll be there in the end, but they got to start getting going.
All right, what about the Bears QB1, Justin Fields?
It's getting higher. It's 7.5 with the arrow pointing straight up. Because there was talk after the season when they had the first overall pick in the draft, just trade Justin Fields and start over again. And I supported staying the course because we saw enough from Fields to think he could take a big leap this year. And now it's going the other way. And with all this other turmoil, I feel like it's potentially heading toward it's not going to work for Fields. They're going to have another high pick. And they've got a new team president in Kevin Warren who did not hire the GM or the head coach. I could see the reset button coming in Chicago after this season and everybody getting cleared out except for Kevin Warren. I
agree with that. I'm going to go 8. I think you have a week like they had leading into this game. And I know Fields might not have meant that way when he's brought up coaching, but I think anytime you bring up coaching, just like if a coach is doing an interview and he brings up a player making a mistake in a game, you're blaming the player. So if you bring up coaching when they ask why you're not playing fast or why this hasn't looked good, and you bring up coaching, I just think that's a bad fit. And I know they said everything is great, but I think as a coach, when you go home at night and all you see looped on the TV is what Fields said, that it's not a feeling that you enjoy.
Yeah, well, hopefully he'll learn from that. He'll understand the spotlight that he's in, and he has to be careful with his words, and hopefully they clean that part of it up. The tricky thing with Justin Fields is you want to play to his strengths. Okay, his strengths are his ability to run the ball. Yeah. So if you're building a great game plan for him each week, to me it would be all about the quarterback run. It would be zone read, it would be designed quarterback runs to play to that and minimize opportunities for him to have to play in the pocket, even when you get down in games, because that's going to be the best way for them to move the football and ultimately score points. The issue is when you have a young quarterback, you want to help him grow too. Yeah. And if you want to be a quarterback in the NFL, you have to be able to throw the ball from the pocket. So I think that's the issue for them. They got to get their feet underneath them. So I would make it all about his ability to run the ball now and then just kind of spoon feed the drop back passing game. And I think that's his only chance to develop as a quarterback, because if they try to make him a drop back quarterback right now, he's going to fail miserably and they're going to move on.
All right, last but not least, another developing quarterback, Zach Wilson.
You know, I'm going to make another hell reference and also a Simpsons reference. There was an episode where Bart asks his Sunday school teacher, is hell like a really hot bathtub, and you just get used to it in time? Like, at what point do the Jets just accept they're in the hot bathtub and this is just what it is? And we're not going to panic because this is it. This is the hand we've been dealt, so we go forward. But until then, it's a 9. Okay. But it's going to start going down because what can you do? And that's the message that's coming out of the team. There's really nothing else they can do other than just stay the course and go 1 week at a time.
I'm at a 10. This is the highest it gets. I think you saw on the sideline, you saw Garrett Wilson, saw Michael Carter, just the exchanges, the frustration on that sideline. This defense went through this last year. There was so much hope. We all watched Hard Knocks. We saw it. They were like, Aaron Rodgers is here. This is going to be great. Quentin Williams, I am him. It just was so much buildup. That defense this year, they can't take it. They don't want to live in that hot bathtub. Yeah. They wanted to win games. And I think each week, as this doesn't go well, this thing's going to continue to boil up. And it's not really on Saleh. Like, he's coaching a good team as far as he can. He's trying to do different things. They're playing good defense. But he just doesn't have what it takes at quarterback, and that's crushing and killing this team.
Yeah, and the other part of this thing, it's not the Peoria Jets, right? It's the New York Football Jets, right? And there's a lot of attention on this team in New York. So when things go bad, you know, it really can be inflame the situation. The one thing I would say about these guys is we stood in Canton together when we started the broadcast before the Hall of Fame game and said, what do you think about the Jets? They got Aaron Rodgers, all of that. And we all said the first 6 weeks are going to be rough. Yep. They might be 1-5 with Aaron Rodgers, okay, top 5 that ever walked, right? And so now you have Zach Wilson. It's still the same first 6 games. So these are hard games for them to play. And I think the biggest thing as coaches, they just got to craft something that says, okay, how do you win a game? How do you play complementary football? How do we play to the defense? How do we get these playmakers on offense featured so they can do something for us? And oh, by the way, minimize the mistakes that Zach Wilson makes. And I think he's grown as a quarterback. He made some crazy throws in the past where he just throw the ball up. You were part of it. You probably intercepted a few of them.
One of my favorite quarterbacks.
Exactly right.
Quick question.
So hopefully he's matured in that way, and they just got to come up with a plan and stay in the fight here. The issue is Buffalo's Chicago's really good. Miami's really good. And there's a lot of ball to be played, but those guys are playing ball too.
But with that offensive line, how much different would it be with Aaron Rodgers? Really? I mean, really? He's 39. If he wasn't injured then, he'd be injured now.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with Aaron Rodgers is he's so smart. He's played so much football, and he knows what the issues are. And so he'll keep himself out of harm's way. And I say this after he only played 4 snaps. So a little irony in this comment. But I think he gives himself a better chance to have some success in that environment.
I agree with that one.
Okay, so the NFL is still writing its story, guys. I just heard that the writer strike is over, so that means new episodes of The Simpsons are coming. You've mentioned Family Guy before, maybe some Yellowstone.
I thought you meant that they were going to change the NFL script and we're going to see different things. Okay.
Literally one of my favorite commercials ever. All right, I think that wraps up everything we have to talk about for Week 3. Can't wait to see you Week 4, and we'll see you on Football Night in America, 7 Eastern, NBC and Peacock. You can catch us there. Don't stream anything else but us.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.